Dr. Raymont is a very special presence in our community. I was thrilled when he agreed to be associate minister here. He is affiliated with Centers for Spiritual Living, and before that he became an ordained minister on his own in a different denomination. I'm not sure if I call us a denomination. What we try to do is look at all faiths and take the best of different faiths and different religions and bring them into what we call New Thought, which is really ageless wisdom because it's based on the wisdom that applies to all different faiths and philosophies. And actually recently I'm listening to a book that's a dialogue between the Dalai Lama and Archbishop Desmond Tutu. It's a wonderful book, and they're kind of laughing with each other and joking, and the Dalai Lama says, well, I don't believe in God, because Buddhists do not worship a God. Then Archbishop Desmond Tutu says to him, that's okay, you'll get into heaven anyway. It's just kind of a wonderful dynamic. I'm actually listening to it on Audible. I love having someone read to me, because I kind of missed out on that when I was a little kid. So it's just, I love that sensation of being read to. So, back to Reverend Dr. Raymont. He is our associate minister, and we're so blessed to have him in that capacity. He's also a teacher and a practitioner. And most recently, he taught a class here on American Sign Language, and we're very much trying to bring that aspect into our element of being inclusive and welcoming, and I always love it when he talks about that too. Please join me in welcoming Reverend Dr. Raymont.
So, how's everybody today?
Great.
Great. I'm not even messing with y'all today. So, because by now you should already know, and I'm not blah, blah, blah. So, going where no prayer has gone before, right? So, don't know if you read it, you heard it. Did you already start to marinate in your mind what that even means? You know, Deborah gave us the steps for treatment, right? So that's like the groundwork of how in religious science, how we do affirmative prayer, right? How many of us as children said something like, now I lay me down to sleep. I pray the Lord my soul to keep. Blah, 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 right? Or, God is good, God is great. Let us thank him for this plate. Amen. Right? Or something. Even, our Father, which art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth. Some form of prayer that we learned by rote. And at some point, for the majority of us, at some point, that prayer felt empty. Like in the beginning, it was like, yes, I'm praying. And then eventually it was like, I'm praying. And then eventually it was like, why am I praying? What is the point of this? What is the point? And what I notice is sometimes we do the same thing in New Thought. Sometimes we get so stuck in, so for me, gratitude, I always do Thanksgiving, right? So I say R-U-R-T-R, right? R-U-R-T-R. It's like how I learned to memorize it. So whether it's R-U-R-T-R or R-U-R-G-R, sometimes we get so stuck in, it has to be an R first. But gratitude can come first. Like it can be flexible. The main thing is this gives us a foundation to help shift in consciousness. Great. But what's next? Like at some point there has to be a what's next. Because if there isn't a what's next, then we're stuck at a level of consciousness that does absolutely nothing. So how many people were here last week? Raise your hand if you were here last week. So Joanne read from Joel Goldsmith last week, from The Infinite Way. So it did something in my mind, because Joel says some stuff that made you have to take a breath. So I want to share some stuff from good old Uncle Joel to ruffle some feathers this morning. Are you ready for the feathers to be ruffled? Yes. Okay, everybody didn't say yes. So
Yes.
just, are you ready? So, the book is called Rising in Consciousness, page 1. We are unfolding states of consciousness, and our outer experience is never going to be any greater than our inner unfoldment. The only hope we have for greater health, greater success, and greater harmony in our human relations is through the unfolding of our inner or real consciousness. Page 6. God is the life of all form. God is the substance, the law of all form. God is the spirit and soul of our form. God, appearing individually as you, constitutes all there is of you. God is the life of you, and that is why you are immortal. And now, because God is the substance of your body, even your body is immortal. Your body is not flesh and blood as it appears to be. God is spirit, and your body is spiritual. Your body is as immortal as your life, which is God. That's just the start. This man goes on and on and on into some stuff. So, anybody know that, like Reverend Alex mentioned the Science of Mind magazine, right? Anybody here familiar with the Science of Mind magazine? So in the beginning, there are the we believes. There are 11 we believes. So number 2 says, we believe in the individualization of the Spirit in us, and that we are individualizations of the Spirit. Originally, individualizations wasn't the word. It was incarnation. We are incarnations of Spirit. And we believe in the incarnation of Spirit as all that there is. So, can I anthropomorphize God for a moment? Can I make God that old guy in the clouds, just for the sake of conversation for a moment? That guy sitting on the cloud, wherever heaven is, God. Does God need to pray? Like, why would God need to pray? And if it's God, and God can do whatever God wants to do, what would God pray for?
I just wanted to say something.
Yes.
I was just thinking, prayer is about reaching a certain state, and God is already at that ultimate state.
Exactly. So technically, God need not pray for anything. And the funny thing is, Yeshua, when Yeshua showed up in human form, in the incarnation of flesh and blood, Jesus, Yeshua, the vast majority of when Yeshua prayed, it wasn't prayer as we know it. He wasn't asking for something to happen. He was stating what is. Even to the degree that when the centurion comes to him and says, yo, JC, got this servant back at the house, not feeling too well. Can you do something for him? Can you come back to the house and fix him up? And Jesus said, I don't have to. I understand that you are a man of great power. And I understand that you, when you say a thing that is to be done, because of the power you are in your military stance, it has to happen. I know this, right? And the story goes on, and Jesus says, we are one. The faith that you have that your servant is going to be healed, it's already done. It's already done. So the centurion goes back and he's like, oh, you're dancing, like everything is fine. Jesus is walking through this thing, and this woman way back here, and she's got this physical issue, and she says, if I can get close enough to just touch his garment, I know I'll be fine. So he's walking, and she makes her way through, and she touches him, and she feels the energy, and she's healed, and he's like, whoa, somebody touched me. I felt it. I felt the energy move. He didn't pray. The very atmosphere that he was shifted and changed things. So the question is, that next level of prayer is knowing. Do we know? Because ultimately, whether it's Joel, whether it's Emma Curtis Hopkins, whether it's Ernest Holmes, regardless of who it is or what tradition in New Thought it is, everyone at some point mentions that the highest form of prayer is knowing. That they all say that at some point, the practitioner need not say anything. That the moment you go to a practitioner or minister or whomever and you say, I need prayer for, immediately in their mind it is the knowing that you have all that you could ever need, want, desire. Because there is a part of you that you don't recognize or realize that God's self. That every single part of us is source. Every single part of us is, and it's hard to remember that when we have aches and pains. It's hard to remember that when something happens in life on the planet, natural disasters, etc., it's hard to remember that God is all there is, right? That can be challenging. The highest form of prayer is stepping into this realization that says, in this form, there is no way I am going to, not in this form, I am not going to know everything. But there is a part of me that does. When Cesar plays music, how is it that we are able to hear the music? He doesn't bring the guitar up to us and put it on our head. He plays the string vibrates, the air vibrates. It reaches our eardrum vibrates. That means there is no true space between he and I. Because he is able to connect through this empty space, even when we can't see it. We hear it. And what did he say? When I'm playing, do what you want to do, but one of the things he said you could do, close your eyes and feel the music. That means that small little box made of wood with strings in his hands, God playing God, sent vibrations of the divine through the air, which is God, reached our eardrums, which is God, interpreted by our brain, which is God. God moved upon itself and inspired itself to clap, to feel, to smile, to tap, because it's all God, and it's all good. So the thing is, when we are praying, whether it's by ourselves or when we go to a practitioner, doesn't matter. What do we have in our mind, in our consciousness, in our paradigms related to this thing that we are asking prayer for? Because ultimately, are we praying to God or are we praying from God? There's a big difference. Am I praying for something outside of me to be brought to me, to be given to me? I'm missing health. I'm praying that it come to me. Rather than I am praying from a state of consciousness where I know that there has to be health. God is health itself. So I'm going to connect with that part of me that knows health. Even if I'm not experiencing it right now, I know it's there. I have the word in my mind. I'm able to say the word out of my mouth. So that means somewhere in my consciousness, health exists. In spirit, health exists. So I'm going to connect to that place, align with that place that knows. I'm going to realize that God is health. I'm going to unify myself and connect knowing that God is all there is and God has to be right here where I am because there's only one. And then I'm going to speak the truth about this thing that I feel is missing. Though I feel sick, I cannot be sick. Though I feel broke, I cannot be broke because God cannot be that thing. Then I'm going to be grateful because how many of us have ever been told by a friend or family member that you are going to get something? You know, grandma told you were going to get that bike. Mom told you she was going to make cookies over the weekend. Something. And you knew that grandma, granddad, Uncle Bob, somebody, you knew they had integrity, and if they said they were going to do it, you knew they were going to do it. You knew, and so you were grateful already. You ain't got the bike. You ain't got narrow cookie on a plate going in your mouth, but you're already grateful. You ask somebody, this is really good, can you send me the recipe? And the person says yes, and you know you're going to get the recipe, so you're already grateful for it before you receive it. Knowing that you're already going to enjoy the meal based upon the recipe, and you don't have it right now, but you're already grateful for it. So you're grateful even though it's not tangibly in your hands right now. And then let it go. Why worry about it? Why try to control the situation? How many of us have ever been in a relationship and you tried to control it? You tried to micromanage it. You don't have to raise your hand. You tried to manipulate it. You tried to micromanage it. You tried to, well, I know that if I push this button, I'm going to, and so you do. And you may not even have done it consciously, but you knew you did it. And we know that trying to control a relationship, even when it's our children, we can't control them. Sweet Honey and the Rock have a song and they say, our children are not our children. They come through us, but we don't own them. They have their own lives, their own dreams, their own things, and we are simply there to guide, not to control, not to manipulate. But we try to do that with our lives. We try to micromanage everything, rather than trusting. Anybody in here ever felt inspired? If I were to ask you to describe what that is, can you explain it to me in a way where it is measurable and tangible? In the way that I could break this candle down, find out exactly what makes it red, where the wax came from, what kind of wax it is, because there are tools, scientific tools, that can do that. But can we do that with inspiration? You can feel it though. You know you have felt it. Can we do that with love? Everybody in here has felt it, feels it. There is someone that you love. But if I ask you to prove it to me, you can't. Prove to me that you are inspired. You can't. All you can do is demonstrate what that does. One who is inspired does whatever inspiration is calling you to do. Write a song, sing a song, write a book, something, teach a workshop, teach a class, go to school, get a degree, something. Inspiration moves us. Same thing with love. Love moves us. Love says protect them. Love says feed them. Love says nurture them. Love says listen to them. That's love. Love acts. So we can't see spirit. Can't see it. Not it in and of itself. But we can see what it does as it moves in, through, and as us. So when I look at you, and I look at you, and I look at you, I see spirit. That's why we say namaste. That which is divine in me sees and acknowledges itself in and as you. But it gets challenging when we don't have, or don't see, or can't see, or don't want to see God in someone else. The person that cut me off on the road today, I don't want to see them as God. The person that standing in line, I'm getting ready, I know you didn't just jump in front of me. The line's, and then she still, yes, Jesus. I don't want to see in those moments. I don't want to feel at one. I want to be angry, and that's fine. Because sometimes anger is part of our human experience. That's fine. Acknowledge it. Don't deny it. Stand in it. Own up to it. Be adult enough, be mature enough to say, I'm angry, so I'm going to flip tables in this temple. And I'm going to start whipping people and get them out of my Father's house. And own the anger. Be one with it. And then move through it. Same thing with any other emotions. Same thing with anything we are praying about. Not praying for. Because to pray for implies there's absence in space. Pray about it. And then truthfully, let's not even say pray about it. Know the truth about it. That's prayer. When you know that you know that you know. Even, so let's say, here's an affirmation. An affirmation, I'm standing in the mirror, I'm doing some Louise Hay mirror work. I love you, Ray. Oh, I just feel silly. But I got to keep saying the affirmation. I'm going to put the Post-its on the mirror, and I'm going to affirm this. I'm good, I'm creative, and I'm going to affirm it. There's a part of me way down here in my lower spine that's like, no, you don't. That's a lie. And I wrestle with it because I don't believe it. So affirmations can be down here. But as we move up, because prayer, oftentimes we pray as if it's an affirmation. Let's bump it up. It's a declaration. Because to affirm something and to declare something is a big difference. So whatever it is, so name something that's going on in the world right now that is a very kind of thing.
North Korea.
Government shutdown.
Government shutdown. What'd you say, Reverend Alex?
North Korea.
North Korea government shutdown. So these are two things that cause angst in people, right? So an affirmation may say, I know that all is well in North Korea. I know that there is no war. There is no threat of war. There are no rumors of war. It's all good and it's all God. And some of you are looking at me like, yeah, right. Like, we don't know this. We don't even believe that. The government cannot shut down because God is the government and God is source and the... Okay, I don't even have nobody else to say that. Right? So an affirmation doesn't really... But a declaration of, even if these people that we call government have shut down, they cannot remain shut down because they are not the ones who control, determine, or dictate how things are going to be. God does that. And so I am declaring that the hand of God, the power of God that is in every man, woman, and person in the government understands, recognizes, and moves from that place of, I am here to serve. And moving from that place that says, I am here to serve, they will understand what they need to do, and they will do it. Because that is what it means to be in integrity. And if they cannot do it, then they will step down and let someone who can answer the call step in that place. That's what I am declaring. It's a big difference. Are we ready, willing, and able to start declaring truth over our lives? You know, in the Bible it says, to pray without ceasing. And I remember when I was a regular Christian folk, I was like, how am I supposed to? Yes, Jesus loves me. Okay. Yes, Jesus loves me. How am I supposed to have a conversation with somebody and I'm supposed to be praying at the same time? So how are you in the name of our Father? Like, I don't know how to do that. Right? But we do it because, as we say in unity, or as they say in unity, our thoughts are prayers. And we are always praying. Our thoughts are prayers. And we are always praying. What were you thinking yesterday around this time? Would you say it was worthy of a prayer? What were you saying to yourself or out loud as you were driving here? And would you say it's worthy of what we would call a prayer? And the funny thing is, if our thoughts are prayers, this thing can't say anything unless it's connected to a thought, right? So I can only say what is connected in my mind and my consciousness. So that means what is coming out of my mouth has to be a prayer as well. And if my thoughts are prayers and my words are prayers, then aren't my deeds also prayers? Is that the Trinity that people talk about? Thought, word, and deed. As we think it, as we speak it, as we be it in the world, that is praying without ceasing. As we move, I remember way back when people used to say, sometimes you are the only Bible that people will ever read. I'm the only Bible. I am the only Bhagavad Gita. I am the only Quran. I am the only Talmud. I am the only sacred text that someone may read. Because of how I move through life. How I speak about life. So, praying from God, declaring from God, simply means walking in and as source. So rather than finding something to be missing or absent in our lives, maybe we should start speaking about what we know is. Address what comes up, but know what is. You break your arm, what do? You go to the ER. Why? Because you know that they have the means and the methods of setting it, but the doctors don't heal you. All they do is facilitate the means by which your body can heal itself. So you are already a healing presence. Medicine doesn't heal us. It helps facilitate the means by which our body does what our body is made to do, because our body is God. Our minds are, there's only one mind, and that mind is God's mind, and that mind is amazing, and that mind is my mind now. One of the things it says, we believe that, the universe is the body of God. That means all tangible things, everything that you can see is of and with and through and as that one power and presence. Whatever you call it, I don't care what we call it. It's like what I said last week about the snowflakes. You see a snowflake, but the essence of it is H2O. It's the same thing. Problem comes up. Is it a problem because we identify it as a problem? Why did, it's credited to Einstein. Einstein said, you cannot solve a problem at the same level of consciousness that either created or identifies it as a problem. But the moment your consciousness shifts and is ready for solution, answer, it shows up. I don't remember who said it, but someone said, when you seek it, you cannot find it. How many of us have put our car keys or house keys somewhere? You're like, where the... Look everywhere, everywhere, everywhere. Get so frustrated and be like, oh! And then stop and look like, I know they weren't sitting there all that time. They were right there. But you were so focused on gone, gone. They're missing. They're gone. I don't know where they are, to the degree that they were right there and you were unable to see what was obviously in front of you. Because your mind shifted to, well, I can't find them. So if I can't find them and I am focused on and obsessed with, can't find, then I'm not going to see what is obviously in front of me. And we all have experiences that we've gone through something similar to that, whether it's keys or a relationship, a job or something that it was staring me right in the face. I knew it, but I couldn't see it because consciousness shifted. So our spiritual practice is getting into alignment. That's why we meditate. Getting into alignment. That's why we do mind treatment. Getting into alignment. That's why we do affirmative prayer. Getting into alignment. That's why we come together as community. Why do you think community, commune, and communion have the same root word? They are all about coming together in the oneness. That's spiritual practice. Coming together for whatever we are here to do, whether it's break bread and eat together, whether it's go to the movies, whether it's bowling, whether it's a picnic, whether it's the December event of performances and stuff, doesn't matter. It's spiritual practice. But do you identify it as that? Because if God is washing dishes, then washing dishes is a spiritual act. If God is sweeping and vacuuming and mopping and washing the car, that's a spiritual act. But we want to identify other things as being more holy than. Meditation is more holy than washing the car. No, it's not. How many of you creative folks, people who sing, dance, act, anything like that, how many of you are in the room? Or write? Have you ever gotten into a zone and lost track of time? How could that not be a sacred or holy act? Time stopped existing for you. That you started at 7 a.m., next thing you know, you blink and it's midnight. You didn't eat. You didn't go to the bathroom. You were creating. You were in the zone. The only thing that existed was you and this thing as one. I am not just painting. I am being painted all in one. I am not just typing, writing, playing, singing, but I am being sung. I am being played in this divine orchestra of God. Everything that we could ever do then becomes a sacred act, then becomes a spiritual practice, then becomes a prayer. Let's pray. Anchoring in to this one breath. This one breath of the infinite that says yes. Allowing Source to breathe us. It says yes. And so as I speak these words, what I know is that there is only one power and one presence called by many names. As it says in the Tao Te Ching, that which is the Tao is nameless. It is the myriad of. And so what I call God, what I call Source, what I call the universe is all there is. And knowing that it is all there is, it must be right here, showing up in, through, and as every man, woman, and child in this building. Every single one the only one, source. And so what I know is that being God, being source, everything that I could ever want to be, do, or have is already present, is already accessible. It is already right here, right now. So that if I say I want there to be world peace, if I say I want there to be gender equality, if I say that I want there to be racial equality, if I say I just want there to be equality, then by the declaration of these words, the vibration must ripple throughout all of that God is, all of creation, and call it to be so. And so I speak this word knowing that this is the truth for every single one of us. We are the divine. We are that powerful, and even more powerful than right now in this room we can ever imagine. So with gratitude, I know that we are shifting. We are evolving. We are ever and ever upgrading in our consciousness, in our lives, in our awareness, in our realization, in our alignment, because that is all that God ever does, is grow and shift and become more and more and more and more infinite, eternal, magnificence, love, joy, and peace. So in gratitude, I speak this, declaring it to be so, knowing that it is because these words came from it, are moving through it, being received by it, and placed back into the law from whence it came. And knowing this, I release it knowing nothing else need be added, nothing else need be said, because it already is. And together we say, and so it is.